Hi, my name is Laxing. I play the Lurk/Blank Watch for Oxygen Esports. You're watching Rainbow Six NAL.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the NAL for the second series of the day. I'm going to be your host, Veli, and right next to me is my trusty analyst, Jesse. He's so smart. And Jacob with the storylines. How's it going, man? But for the standings right now, Jesse, a lot of things have changed, and the team that's on top today might not be after a specific matchup. Can you tell me all about it?
So right now, Sonic sit in the very comfy position of best in North America, at least in terms of the standings at the moment. They're going to be sitting at the top there with 10 points, the only team with double digits. But because Sonics don't play today, they have a bye, and because Auction TSM are playing right now, the minimum amount of points that one of these teams can get is 2, right? So at least one of these teams is going to get to 11. One of them might get to 12 points after this matchup. Now, I will say, Auction and TSM still have bye weeks coming up, or bye matches coming up, so they will both have Playdays in the future where they don't play and Sonics will play. But after this game coming up here, we will see a change in the leaderboard, guaranteed, not necessarily because Sonics are struggling or anything like that, but just due to how the schedule is created.
And look at the team that's sneaking up right behind them, the series that we just watched. East Coast 1 point behind. It's going to look different by the end of the day, but still, the race is getting way more tight. But fellas, let's break down the teams. Let's talk about TSM first. As they take on the likes of Oxygen. This is going to be a really big matchup, and we know the names. People always ask, Jacob, what time does Bolo play? But
oh, yeah.
It's coming up now, and I think TSM, compared to what we saw last time around, they're really going to bring the heat to match up with the firepower that we're going to see on Oxygen.
Yeah, I'd certainly hope so. And if you look at the head-to-head record between TSM and OXG, specifically over their last, 6 meetings, all right, put that in your head, since the middle of the summer of 2020, think it all the way back to July. TSM lost to OXG back in July, and then every single other series that they've played since then, it's been a TSM win. Back when we had best of threes in stage 1 and stage 2 of last year, at the November major, the August major, every single other time TSM has defeated OXG in regular season and major competition. They're 5-1 overall. Yeah. So if that doesn't give you a really, really good sense about how TSM should be faring, like historically because of that record, it's been so dominant towards TSM that hopefully they've still got some of the playbook figured out.
Well, hopefully they do. Go ahead, Jesse.
Just wanted to build on that. These teams have played so much since the start of the NAL. They've actually played on every single competitive map against one another, and they've got results on both of them.
All right.
Yes, they've actually won every single competitive map. Of course, the exception is Chalet. That hasn't been an option so far, but still, a lot of history here.
All right, Jesse, you know what? Last Playday was pretty disappointing for TSM. It was a very close game against the Sonics. We saw them lose in overtime, but Merc and Bolo going 16-23. that was not pretty. I heard that laugh right there. But also, TSM on attack was pretty lackluster as well. This was a TSM that we saw that was just flustered.
Yeah, I think so. I think this was a tough game for sure. Sonics have played really, really well, and there were a lot of great moments from TSM as well. I think there were a couple of small mistakes that I didn't like from them, particularly just keeping important operators alive when the round was getting really close to it. I think Achieved on this Buck was not necessarily staying alive as often as he should have. Buck's a really important operator, particularly on those Dorms bomb sites and some other sites as well on this map, and so it was a little bit too often for my liking that they were losing these operators that their whole point was this is going to win you the round, right? You're going to win the round because you got a Buck below and then the Buck gets flanked and dies. So there was a little bit of problem with TSM keeping their important figures alive.
Yeah.
That's something I'd like to see them work on a little bit. Obviously, it was still a very close game, and I think TSM played it very well. But, when it's an 8-7 game against the Sonics, those small mistakes will kill you.
Those small mistakes definitely did kill him. And take a look at the stat line right there. There's a player that has been consistently great, Jacob. I don't even got to say the name, but the hard breacher on this team, Geo, there you go. There goes a little cheat code. He has been so good for this roster, and we all have seen the effect of what a hard breacher can do when a player that plays Geo role, having opportunities like that, and now he's able to make something out of it. He has been TSM's brightest spot just about, and no, you could say arguably he is, right?
I think he definitely is. Yeah, he and Achieved right now from a CGG rating standpoint sit at 3rd and 4th respectively in all of the NAL for this first stage. But for him especially, it's honestly kind of cool because you'd have to go a little bit further down the scoreboard in overall player rankings to find somebody else who is also Hard Breach who ranks that high. So he is the best Hard Breach of anyone in the league at the moment, if only from a statistical point of view, and he just keeps on showing up. He's a clutch god. We saw it on Cafe against Xset. We know that he can do everything, and he also does fit into that classification. The TSM are all fraggers, all of them. Each and every one can produce kills whenever it's required, and it doesn't really matter what situation you're stuck in. I do kind of agree with Jesse in that there was a lot of situations where they were losing super pivotal operators at really crucial moments, but if they just shore up a couple of things, they only lost that game yesterday by 1 point. And if Geo and Achieve keep on doing what they're doing, they're still maintaining their stat line, they're still helping to push their squad. It's probably not the biggest loss in the world.
It really was, and we all know what TSM are made of. Still really close and really good game, fun game to watch. If you missed it, make sure you check out the VOD. But the other team we're talking about, after a week of disappointments, Jesse, it is like a breath of fresh air. Let's talk about Oxygen for a second. We saw some disappointing performances when it came to those last few play days, but yesterday, Oxygen beat Space Station Gaming. Foxay on top, 14-11. This team looks so good. What did we notice from them in that win?
I mean, there were a couple different things. Obviously, some players that have been struggling so far on this team had big days. Yaga's probably the biggest one to come to mind. But overall, this team, what I really was impressed by was how well they dealt with, like, their opponents' roam games, right? We saw a lot of aggressive stuff coming out from Space Station. They were all over the map, and it just didn't work against Oxygen. Those types of holds consistently are supposed to slow down the attackers, are supposed to get kills early on. And Oxygen just said, okay, well, we're going to our backs, and then we're just going to execute. And they did that really, really well. This is a style of strategy that just hasn't worked so far against Oxygen Esports, and it seems like Space Station, you want to try that more of aggressive drone denial sort of roaming strategies. I think needs to rethink some things, because really the way the Oxygen dealt with it was phenomenal, and one of the big reasons why they won that game.
Yeah, now Jacob, looking at last play day as well, we saw the way that Oxygen played on Oregon against Space Station Gaming, and it was really scrappy on the side of Oxygen, right? But take a look at Vertical. He was their best entry fragger of the day, man. He was 3-3 and 13-11. Like, he was great. And now the thing about Vertical is we've known what he's capable of, and being on a team like this, having him in the forefront, fragging out with the likes of Yaga and even Kino, that's insane. That's what we want to see out of this team.
Yeah, Vertical, when he came onto this team for the first time alongside Slashhug, what it seems like forever ago now at this point that he joined this squad, he, alongside the core of Foxay and Laxing, have helped to kind of lock down and really give this team an identity, and he's always been the person that we rely on to get those entry kills, go for those heavy frag fests, and he also, in this case, still had a good day. 3-3 on the opening kills does make a massive difference. In this case, it was Foxay, believe it or not, that had a bit of a better showing, a 1.18 rating according to CGG, and Yaga with a 1.12, but he showed up with 15 frags.
Do you see Yaga right there? Jesse, you're laughing, but you guys know what Yaga's capable of. For people that don't watch too much Challenger League, what was Yaga like back then? And compare that to now. How much of a step up has he made, or has this been Yaga all along?
It's been a big step, and a massive reason for it is in Stage 2, if I'm remembering correctly, of Challenger League from last year, there was only one player who managed to get 100 kills or pass into the triple-digit mark in kills at all. There was only one guy who was able to do it, and the person who was in second place didn't even come close to it. Guess who it was? This man right here, Yaga. I guarantee that stat line was a massive reason for OXG wanting to try to grab him. He played a really, really good season with Ape, even though they didn't place that highly. He was one of the bright spots and helped catapult them into a higher... I think they were within like the top half of teams from that stage. He did such a phenomenal job, and he's looking like finally, after a little bit of a shaky start at the stage, is really coming into his own now.
Jesse, looking at the ceiling for both of these players, what's the potential like, man? Because it seems like every week, me personally, I like to watch the storylines, and I'm wondering when we're going to see Yaga and Kino just, hit a brick wall and then have that struggle phase. I'm wondering when that honeymoon phase is going to end, but it seems like it's never going to end with these two.
I mean, I think that, like, in terms of Kino, he had a really hot start to the season. He played fantastically, obviously. You know, his very first round in Tier 1 competitive stage, he got an ace playing Thermite. I mean, it's a great story. He's slowed down a little bit, I would say. He's still fantastic. His smoke plays have been really incredible to watch. And he's not played bad, I would say, in any of his games so far. But it seems like he's slowing down a little bit, and other members, particularly like Vertical, Fox, and of course Yaga, are starting to fill this in, and the roster's looking a little bit more well-rounded, which is what you expect, right?
Yes.
Particularly, I think with Yaga sort of coming up here and finding more success, this has been huge to see because we did talk about him just before that game, not necessarily having the best previous stats, but for these two rookies to come onto this team and make such a huge difference. Compare this to old Oxygen from last year, right? And it just seems so much like they're so much more capable of getting these wins. They feel like their drive is back. Not even just that the new players are stronger, but even the veterans on the squad who retained their positions from last year just look so much more refreshed. Vertical looks like a whole new player. It's a lovely thing to see.
I really love the point that you made about Vertical because he has been just crazy as of late. Best aim in the game, right? But Jesse, the map selection is finally here. And what map off the top of your head do you think we're going to face off on?
I was actually leaning a little towards Chalet because again, there's so much history between these two teams. A lot of these maps favor TSM. I imagine that Auction are going to want to take out Consulate, Coastline, and Cafe. Those are the three that I have written down for them. There's two of them already. And for TSM, the maps left, they do leave up just the two that I was talking about, Chalet and one more. It's up for grabs. Auction gets the decision.
Chalet. Oh,
Adam, we'll see. Come on. Production, there it is, Chalet.
Oh my God.
Coming in big for TSM. Now, obviously, this is not a great map for Oxygen to be forced into. As I mentioned, they don't want to go to Consulate, Cafe, or Coastline because of various reasons of, why they dislike these maps against TSM. But Chalet particularly is one that TSM have done so well on in the NAL. They're the only team in the NAL to have won this map so far. They're 2-0 on it, having big wins just this last couple of weeks. And so this is a tough ask for Oxygen to take this map against TSM, but it's kind of their only option in terms of where they were allowed to go.
Jacob, we're back on Chalet. TSM, they're definitely a Caliber fan, right? Prediction time. Is it going to be Oxygen with the rookies or TSM, the team that we expected at the beginning of the season, just run crazy on everybody in the NAL?
I hate this. I hate this so much because both teams are just so good. They're both vying for first place. They have the same amount of points, and I got a lot of respect for both players on it. So this was really difficult before we kind of knew what the maps were. But TSM is undefeated on Chalet, and that's the only real reasoning that I can give for this. They've gotten it down twice. Both of these teams have lost to Sonics on different maps that weren't this one, and TSM so far have proven their superiority on this battleground. You might not think that the map matters that much, but in the context of these two teams who have such historical significance with one another, it absolutely does. You're going to hope and pray that OXG have something prepared for it, but TSM have already proven 2 weeks straight last week that they know what they're doing on this map. So I'm giving it to them by the slimmest of margins.
Jesse, Jacob says you can't fail the eye test. We've seen him here and we've seen him win. Do you agree with him or do you think differently?
Before every game, I like to, go through a mock draft of the maps. I like to try to predict which maps will get banned, which maps will get played in the end. And I predicted this map pool 100% correctly.
That's true. You did say that.
Every ban right and every pick right. Okay. And that's really worrying because I looked at these maps and I said pretty well all of these lean towards TSM in my mind. And Auction aren't going to get a map that they're happy to go to. Chalet is not going to be one of those that they're happy with. So yeah, I'm going to give it to TSM as well. I think that TSM just have them beat out. Now, Auction are a fantastic team, and they'll keep it close, and it's a best of one, so absolutely they could win this. But I think TSM are the favorites. They're the one we've seen on this map. I got to go with Caliber Jacob's prediction.
All right, Jacob and Jesse, I'm going to need you to be quiet for this one. I'm turning on my desktop audio. Jasmine, you're 1-0 so far. And the thing is, you can't make a prediction on the NAL. By the way, for those of you that know, I'm talking to a production right now. Jasmine, you can't make one prediction and just retire undefeated. We got to see if that luck is going to stretch out to 2 games. Who do you have winning this game? I'm going to let you pick for me.
All right.
Again.
This one I'm going to say TSM because they were looking pretty strong yesterday.
All right, TSM's looking pretty strong. And who's going to be the player that pops off?
Everybody here saying Bolo.
Bolo, okay, we got a bunch of Bolo fans in the back.
All right.
So that's going to be it. All 3 for TSM. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be it. This game is going to feature a lot of heavy firepower. I hope you're ready for it. It's going to be Oxygen versus TSM. So my boys Blue and Stokes, take it away.
All right, thank you very much, Veli, and welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen, to our next matchup of the day here between TSM and Oxygen. Stokes, what do we make of this one? Going to Chalet for the first time. You'll have to forgive us on the casting department while you warm up with the calls here, since it'll be our first time diving into it. But let's look at these two teams. Obviously, TSM coming into this one already with one win on their back, an 8-6 victory versus SSG in the first time they played it. Oxygen, obviously, haven't yet played this one, and as Jesse was mentioning, generally doesn't trend towards maps of this style.
No, we also saw TSM go up against Mirage last week on this map as well, where they fared extremely well. I'm extremely excited to get into this one. As you said, you and I haven't casted Chalet just yet, so give us a little bit of a break, but don't worry, folks, we got coffee along with us, so I'm sure we'll make it through. Well, I do. You better go get some coffee, John. What are you doing, man? Come on. It's like the essential commentator thing.
It's a bit difficult.
Dude, you're in Vegas. Don't they have, like, you know, DoorDash, Uber Eats, like literally anything?
I actually don't think I can get coffee delivered.
What?
From what? Yeah.
Heresy.
I don't think so. Maybe I just haven't looked
I think
that
that's
hard,
against the Geneva
yeah.
Convention. You might have to look that up. I don't know.
Either way, getting back to the discussion of this match point, you can see TSM there getting rocked and ready to roll at a moment's notice, which means we are more than likely going to be jumping into this in a second. But as well, talking about some of the individual players that have been showing up. A lot of people putting the hope onto Bolo, but been a big fan of what we've been seeing out of Geo over the past couple games also. So hopefully going to see them all step up to the plate and perform quite adamantly, as we do have our community poll question ready in the meantime. These two are consistently some of the best flank watches in the Rainbow Six North American League. Will Laxing or Chala frag out more consistently today? Be sure to go ahead and let us know over in either the Twitch chat or any of our social channels, most notably our Twitter at R6esportsNA. But submit your vote there, and Veli will have the results a little bit later on in the show.
Oh, man. And they're practically a spitting image of each other as well inside of their stats as of right now, at least in kills and entries. So that's actually a really good one there. So good job on you, production. Personally speaking, though, I would have to probably go with Chala. I feel like Chala is extremely consistent in his fragging. Not that Laxing isn't. I just feel like he's more of an explosive player, where he's going to have huge games where there's going to be some games where he's not going to find the same measure.
Laxing's always kind of, I think a good way to bring up a metaphor for Laxing is to say, like, he's always off on an island, and it's like sometimes the boat comes to save him.
Yeah, like, I've literally watched this guy kill someone with Echo in strip club across Clubhouse. Like, you never know what the guy's gonna do. Yeah. Like, that's what I'm trying to get at.
Sometimes he can get the signal flare up, sometimes, unfortunately, can't make a fire that day.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's a little bit of a mixed bag for him. But I agree, Chala has been a pretty good rock of consistency for TSM ever since he really stormed his way onto the roster back at the beginning of the 2020 season of the NAL as well. But here we go, folks, into the map, into our first cast in a while on Chalet. My first cast ever, actually, on Chalet. So let's take a peek here and see the bands. TSM going to be knocking out Nomad first.
Well, it's going to be a fun time, buddy. Welcome to Chalet, first of all, one of my all-time favorite maps. This map used to be kind of difficult when it came down to defending, basically because of how the sites broke up, especially around the kitchen trophy area. It just wasn't very fun. Also, there was a window that you couldn't have access to that actually saw a lot more play than I think a lot of people thought it was going to. But yeah, Chalet, with its recent changes, we'll walk you guys through it and talk about some things. But hopefully you guys have already seen the map a handful of times, because it has already been played in the NAL. Maverick going to be the other offensive ban, and a pretty solid one at that for Oxygen. That leaves Thatcher up for the offense, as well as a nice Vigil ban here from OXG. We saw TSM use Vigil a decent bit in their defenses the last time up against Mirage, but we didn't get to see too much of it, to be completely honest with you, because TSM mostly won their rounds on offense.
Vigil proving itself to be quite prominent in general for most roam games, so he'll get knocked out as a result of that. And Wamai, also a good addition when combined with Jaeger or another form of utility dump mitigation as well. So generally those two proving to be a little bit too much to deal with. And Wamai, I think, coming out as one of the stronger forms of that utility mitigation nowadays, even when compared to Jaeger to a slight degree. So considering that, he's going to find himself getting banned out as our final ban there. And we'll go into the first round, where we do already have an interesting pick coming in Frost continuing to carve her way into the meta here, although this time not so much the case. She'll get 6 picked out towards the castle there.
Yeah, more than likely. I quickly skimmed through TSM's previous Chalet just to see what our lineups were looking like going into this, and we only saw the Frost on their game's defense, which makes a lot of sense given that they're more than likely going to go for something like library, let's say this properly, and as well as games and just, people hopping in windows and stuff like that. Frost mats are always going to be able to possibly get you a frag in that department if people aren't looking out for it. Just to remind you guys, it's an upside down bell curve for this one. So Frost actually has the most effectiveness against silvers, bronzes, those kind of people, and then it goes all the way up to diamonds. So that's how it works. It's either the smartest people or the dumbest people. Take your choice. That's what Frost has an effect over.
Like I said, that we have started to see her be used more and more, specifically for gym and bedroom defenses on Clubhouse. So I've seen like 3 or 4 different teams use her for that specific site nowadays. So it's not too unlikely that we'll start to see her slowly work her way into other pickups if teams are able to pick up on the fact that she can possibly be useful in those situations, but not going to be prevalent inside of this round. TSM bringing a much more normal stack of these defensive operators, and for Oxygen, also going to be bringing the 0 once again, continuing to see his prevalence soar inside of the meta now that he's been unlocked for play. Going to see quite a bit of the OXG roster line up against the walls outside of the kitchen, as well as Solarium upstairs there. More than likely going to see a couple people try to take control if we're going for that usual top-down clear here.
Yeah, and the more and more we see people begin to, build up a repertoire with Sam Fisher and with Zero, the more and more I think we're going to be seeing this character. I mean, Zero is just such a solid operator, truly in any lineup. He has just so much at his disposal, whether it be secondary hard breach, the Gon 6 as the secondary weapon, really solid AR on top of all of those cams that can not only get you information, but can also get rid of defensive utility pieces as well. So
and he can do that too.
Such a good thing. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't really know where the damage came in from there because it looked like he took some damage for a split second, but I think he just flipped the camera around and it was just something I haven't seen in a while. So yeah, that's the other thing you can do. Can flip between or back and forth in between walls that it's allowed to go through, which is not only soft walls but also reinforced walls as well. Just can't go through something like concrete.
So it gives you a good capability to get purview on potentially 2 different angles at once. So really, really useful for utility there. We could see TSM on the inside of the now much larger blue hallway just outside of the site here, trying to carve out a defense for him and the rest of his squad. Oxygen slowly beginning to push their way in, but while they are at the edge of the site, have been unable to make any forward progress as if, this has actually been a very quiet round, just until I talk about it anyway, where Geo is finally going to get down first here for TSM. Great start for Oxygen. Chala responds in kind, though, and he's not ready for the follow-up from Vert. Laxing also finding a frag. It's a flood of kills here from OXG. TSM can't seem to stop it. That's going to ignite the plant potential and bring us down to only achieved, and he won't survive very long either. Kino carves out that last frag, and it's OXG picking up round 1.
Oxygen just maintaining the very terrifying offenses. I mean, that right there was just textbook. There was really nothing that TSM could do. They didn't have the picks. They really didn't have the capability to try and get back at Oxygen as they enter the actual site, especially with that leadoff pick from the frag grenades. They don't have anybody inside of Wine Cellar to try and combat on that cross angle. So all they have is the smoke to try and bail them out of that inside of blue, but we saw how all that broke down with vertical. So it's just a very strong clear from OXG to get rid of the ADSs and simply nade the guy in the back, slap a plant down, and you have yourself a round. That was a pretty straightforward one there for OXG, so we'll see if round 2 fares any differently. Now we are going to be going to Bar Gaming, Aruni coming along for the ride in place of Mira, and that Frost that I was talking about that they use in their lineup on this specific site coming in as well.
All right, into round number 2 here. A change up in the site for TSM as they're not feeling too confident in their ability to repeat the basement hold successfully, and I would generally agree with that. Oxygen come in with a very, very convincing first round for themselves here. Maybe talking some of the analyst predictions for this one also, with the great play we saw out of OXG there. TSM trying to keep themselves restrained, trying to focus entirely on the site. Ultimately did not pan out. That's stable. Solid play from TSM gave far too much info over to OXG, so when they moved in for the execute, they had all of the info they needed, and although they lost 1 or 2 players on the way in, everybody was set up to immediately trade out those kills, with the most notable example being Chala in blue there, to make sure that Oxygen would still stay strong and in control of that execute. during the entire time it was moving.
Yeah, and you could also just see how poised Oxygen were as well. Vertical not forcing the envelope when it wasn't necessary, instead taking his time to switch over to that SMG-11 because he's going to be in a closer gunfight, and obviously we know how dominant that SMG-11 can be in those instances. So Oxygen now, though, starting things off extremely early here. They're actually going to insert Vert downstairs. They'll sledge through Snowmobile Garage and already has some pressure inside of Wine. Looks like he has the cutoff right now for Blue, and Achieved could make a possible rotate here, but TSM don't really have any reason to do this as of now. They have zero insights into how Oxygen are working the map, all except for that audio cue obviously downstairs, so this could simply be a bait here from OXG, but they're still going to be working this top floor and setting everything up. The main job right now is to try and get Laxian in, have him set up these Argus cams for the flank watch, and start working towards that site. All of that information is going to make it extremely difficult for TSM to try and battle back, especially if they try to go for something cheeky late into the round.
So once again, things being very quiet here for multiple reasons, namely because this is a new map, so more than likely teams wanting to play this very, very carefully, as a lot of these strategies will be untested in an official setting. Obviously, scrims are probably aplenty to use obviously, or I should say, to prepare themselves for these official matches, but you don't fully know how things are going to work out until you're actually able to work your way into that playstyle. So Oxygen working their way forward here as they try to push in, dealing with the soft destruction or hard destruction wall to get to the outside. Oh, but a nice nade's going to work its way in here against Bolo, downing when he was already low as well. Be able to crawl away from that, but is not going to be able to get to a safe position as Kino will finish him off before Bolo is able to crawl his way over towards any of his teammates. That's an even trade now. Brings us back down to a 4v4. Yaga trying to swing in there, just dealing the Surya Gate real quickly, and finally dealing with the shield, but the opponent that was behind it now long gone. Further down the stairs as Geo's retreated.
I think Yogg accidentally launched both of his impacts into that Surya Gate before it turned off, but either way, still able to get rid of the gate and also get everyone out from upstairs. And there you go, folks. Listen, it wasn't even six-picked. It wasn't even six-picked. I'm just telling you, it affects the smartest and dumbest people that play Rainbow Six. Like Frost is such a crazy character. Laxian now down, and he's only gonna have his name when he gets picked back up. So this will bring a smile to TSM's face, but they're gonna need a lot more than a smile to win it out in these last 20 seconds.
Yeah, definitely the case. Oxygen is still very much in the lead and controlling this round right now. The biggest obstacle that could befall them is one of the anchors going off and multi-fragging here. As we can see, though, Kino gets the ping for it. Is he expecting the play? It won't matter as his teammate cuts it off. Regardless, Kino gets the kill in sight. In the meantime, Geo tries to wrap in, but he's also been flanked out. Beautiful positioning from OXG as they have all of their assets covered for another perfect take.
Oh, man. Kino had so much faith in Laxian shutting down that flank as well. What a great teammate right there. That's some solid stuff from Oxygen and a way to bounce back as well. Never truly behind, though. Let's get in front of that for a second. Never truly behind there. TSM were able to trade out pretty well early on there, especially Bolo with that frag, but we saw exactly what happened with that as well. And right there, that's a threat that Bolo actually offers a lot of the times. We've heard quite a few pros talk about it, the most notable one being Canadian, talking about how Bolo plays shields and how he just constantly bounces back and forth and it's hard as hell to try and kill the guy. Well, it's because of instances like that where he gets that fast little peek, he gets the info, and he just pre-fires on the swing and melts you. It's so difficult to try and combat. He's going to get himself a kill because of that, but obviously the frag just being too close to him, and Oxygen able to convert not only that kill from Bolo, but also some immense pressure from multiple angles upstairs into a library take, and then translating that into simply pushing through the front door, finding all of those frags. So very solid from OXG. These offenses going off without a hitch so far.
All right, well, the Frost map proving itself to be successful in the previous round is going to make another appearance here inside of round 3. TSM will run it back once again, bring it into the fold here to try to utilize and hopefully catch Laxing once again if he fails to check the window hop in that time. Probably not going to make the same mistake twice, but we'll see if anybody else does on the OXG roster. Overall, though, TSM still focusing on that bar defense here. You can see the extra effort put into reinforcing the upstairs hold for Merc or whoever's going to play to the inside of those positions. Allow them to play out on this upper balcony here, preventing themselves, hopefully, from being overwhelmed by a flood by OXG, whether it's going to be upstairs or in through one of the main doors.
All right, well, Oxygen out onto things now, and it all starts here at Ego. as they'll be working their way into the building. We'll have full control of office in most of this master area. They do have a possible flank that could come through, but I don't think Merc wants to even try and attempt that anymore. I was just simply saying that because we saw him over in Trophy for a split second, but probably smarter to play here with the Nitro Cell instead, and that's exactly what he's going to do. He's got cam info up top. You can see the pings coming through, so he's going to set that up. They're going to do it right after Foxay walks in fully. And he's not dead yet. Oh, all right. Okay, well, that one didn't work out. All right, Foxay's only going to take a little bit of damage. I thought we had a supporting friend on a camera there, but not going to be the case. And actually, Oxygen will be able to get rid of that Nitro. So, great beginning here for them, but they are actually going to switch out characters. It's no longer Merc here. Instead, Achieved with some Artillery of Zone.
TSM trying to hunt from below here, but so far unsuccessful inside of this round and trying to fish anyone out on the OXG side. They continue to take small amounts of the second floor map control away from TSM. You still have the actual hold set up in your library and the main room balcony upstairs here to play with, and more importantly, clear out though. But they've already been able to do it once. It's just a matter of repeating the same task yet again. Bolo, of course, you see the EMP come in. Won't be too phased by it, though, as obviously it's not going to affect anything sitting immediately near him. I'll have to watch out if a frag or another form of explosive utility does rip its way towards him, though, as that could potentially take out his Goyo shield, like we're going to see right here.
Well, once again, we have Oxygen. And some very strong beginnings here. Great pressure onto Bolo, but the issue is now is that the clear isn't going as strong as it once did. They haven't been able to get him out of this position, and it's mostly due to his Electro Claw on the wall directly to his back before they were able to Selma charge that open, and that is where we saw that gunfight go down with Bolo, but now you can see they're throwing everything except the kitchen sink at this guy, and they're not able to get the kill. Instead, Bolo is the one getting the frags. He'll get immediately refragged, but Chala does his due diligence and is able to pick up Vert on the back, and once again, TSM shoot ahead, but Oxygen on these offenses, they are just so aggressive, pushing forward, taking down Achieve, but Merc with yet another frag for TSM.
So with TSM's own aggression finally paying off here as Oxygen are stunted, forced to execute with suboptimal player count at a 2v3, realistically a 2v4 if Achieved was retrievable here, but they're not focused on that right now. Chala swings back into the bar for 2 more as he plays it out beautifully as well. Finally, TSM fending off the aggression from OXG and picking up their first round in the map.
Much better top hold there for TSM. I don't exactly know how Oxygen got the Electro Claw off the previous time, or even if the Electro Claw was applied there. We didn't have too much insight into how that top floor broke down, all except for the wall being open inside of round 2, and then obviously seeing Bolo's engagement with the frag grenade and all of that. But this time around, it doesn't work in their favor. Instead, they actually have to get forceful with Bolo on Library Balcony, and not only does it drain almost 2.5 minutes, but Bolo also kills someone on top of Chala getting a frag across the map. So technically speaking, not only 2 minutes and 30 seconds off the clock for TSM, but also 2 frags into the back pocket. It's going to be difficult for Oxygen to win that round any way you slice it, and that's why TSM are able to clean up round 4 and take their first round here on Chalet. These defenses starting to come together.
So an upstairs round on the docket for TSM after finally locking down one of their defensive sites with a win, forcing them on to a different one. This will obviously be played a little bit different, a little bit more directly, I would generally expect, but having not seen this one played in pro yet, I'm also going to have to take a peek here over the next 18 seconds to see what exactly TSM are looking to negotiate for themselves.
Well, not a Frost, so there's
yeah,
that.
No, we saw that get 6-picked way out of here, so that seems to be purely for the bar hold right now on TSM.
Now they're just picking it despite laxing. There's like, hey,
yeah, it's just mental warfare.
we just want you to know.
It's like Forrest's username right now, according to him. Right?
Oh, dude, that might have been one of the funniest tweets I've ever seen Forrest tweet in my entire life.
Yeah.
They're like, you can't have your name like Forrest's name. Yeah, no, it's mental warfare. It's so great, man. So great. But jumping back in here, folks, we finally have the setup available to us to see what TSM is up to. And it's actually a lot. We're going to have a dining setup here with a mirror window to play for Fireplace Hall. This is a hot zone for for a lot of people to be trying to operate inside of, whether it be the defense or the offense. A lot of defensive flanks come through here. A lot of offensive play starts inside of here. It's just an area inside of Chalet which gets a lot of traffic, and that's why TSM want to be able to keep an eye on it. Other thing you're going to want to be able to keep an eye on, a Chief's health, because it's extremely low, and they'll need something to try and bounce back off of that. Oxygen already have pressure throughout the map. Vert is once again starting downstairs inside of Garage. We'll have to worry about some overwatch from a couple of different angles. Bolo tries to go for the swing, but Yogg, too clean today, as he doesn't even lose 25 HP. He gets in yet another gunfight as TSM tries to fight back, and they will successfully. Yogg down, Merc with a frag.
Burgundy getting that revenge, but losing about 25 HP, and that between achieved as well is going to be problematic for when they need to do these types of fights. Merc trying to swing into Vertical's angle. Vertical takes the cake there, and as far as I can see, doesn't take any damage from the exchange either. Unfortunate for Merc not making the impact needed and pushing TSM further down on the numbers game yet again here. Achieved, remember, still incredibly low as well, as he's hiding out in the back of the site here, trying to play his life to the best of his own capability. Foxay will work here with the Selmas to try to get open one of the walls leading into the site. As far as I'm aware, should go off without too much of an issue, as there's no mitigation currently for TSM. But aside from that, Oxygen continuing to take their time, since they have quite a bit of an extra amount of it here inside of this round. Still a minute left. They've already got it down to a 4v3, and they're right on the borders of the site.
Well, the good news for TSM is they do still have some utility pieces at their disposal. It could assist them. Problem is, though, is the long road ahead of them, and it all starts here. Can they get the lead off pick on this execute from OXG? Very low HP, still unachieved, and that's going to be the main problem. Another EMP out here. Have to reset the grenade as this bounce is going to come through. This is going to be a huge frag, but achieved. Oh, no, he whiffs. Vertical gets the frag, even though he had one in his hand. Oh, no. 2 versus 4 now for TSM, and it's not looking good. M590 out, though, for Geo. Is he'll make it work. Looking for yet another. Shala picks up another, actually. 2 versus 2, and all of a sudden, this is so very winnable. Kino, though, and Laxing, good for it, and both of their both of their individual 1v1 situations able to clean up that round either way. So they shoot back ahead of TSM up 3-2.
What was that gunfight? Dude had a nade in his hand, gets swung, and not only is he able to throw the nade at his opponent, but then get his gun out and still win the fight. What the heck just happened right there?
Yeah, I literally jumped the gun there. That round was so crazy. I was like, oh, 3-2.
A little bit, but it's okay. Oxygen's still in control of things, as they're going to take themselves up to a 3rd round overall inside of this half. And for TSM, running out of options here. The basement hold's not working. The bar hold's not working, as we've seen twice already. So going to have to work their, or excuse me, as we've seen once already. And the upstairs hold obviously not working there either. So they're going to have to rotate their way back down to the 4th site as they go to kitchen and dining room.
And we're going to have the Frost here as well. So make that 2 sites that we see TSM play Frost on. And you can't exactly blame them, because that's like all of Chala's frags as well, I'm pretty sure, is playing on this operator. I think he might have 1 from an SAS op, but nah, it's been mostly Frost work with that 1.5 times scope. And just because that SMG-11 has a slow rate of fire doesn't mean it doesn't work. I mean, we have this conversation all the time and have been having it for practically 6 years at this point with Rainbow Six, because of the UMP-45. That gun for a really long time has been a make or break for a lot of professional players. You either love it or you hate it, whereas, you know, we actually have someone here that loves it. Foxay. Foxay's a big fan of the UMP, even though it has a very weird setup on it, but we won't hate him because of that. You know, everyone gets to use their own attachments, but that's why I think that we're starting to see Frost work back in. That secondary shotgun, those Frost mats, actually having some effect nowadays as well, and just having the 1.5 times scope, having those, you know, a longer distance gunfight available to you from defense is just such a big deal when it comes down to it.
Much smaller deal overall, but she also has that secondary shotgun to play off of if you don't have a shotgun operator on your team for any sort of necessary site prep or rotation holes that need to be set up there. So she can also be useful, obviously to a much lesser degree, but still helpful in that respect, even slightly too. So either way, moving into round number 5 here, seeing what Oxygen can try to net themselves. We're getting close to the end of their attacking side. So far, very promising results so far, with 3 rounds going into their pocket, only 1 successfully being defended on a repeat at bar by the TSM roster, and that was because finally their aggression yielded results. We've been seeing them try to throw it at Oxygen for so many rounds, but normally Oxygen, due to the very, very patient playstyle from them, waiting mainly for intelligence to be able to take any action, they've been usually coming out on top of most of the early gunfights, giving them the capability that they need to swing onto the site and eventually overwhelm TSM's defenses.
Well, all starts here and what they're able to get rid of from these important pieces.
Oh my God.
Yogg trying to get the damage dealt, but Geo actually ends up getting away. Very minimal damage done to him as well, as he'll continue to play out his life and waste so much time. Kino with a lot of damage dealt to him as well, but finally Geo's been shut down on the cross from Laxing, who has just been so dominant today, consistently throughout this, really taking it to Chala. It seems like the predictions for today were made pretty well, I would say, since it's both the top frags from either squad as of right now.
Merc going to be setting up a quick little bullet hole for him to play off of there. In the event he needs to swing back to the inside of the bedroom, but time now under 1 minute. Oxygen are going to begin to feel the pressure of TSM's defense start to work its way back against them, as they need to start forcing the issue in a couple areas where they honestly might not be ready to play. That's actually a great Argus cam right there. Just forced back at Sheev. He's trying to find it, and there you go. Has located it, but still going to end up giving the intel that he is down here inside of the basement, or at least should have done so. Laxing will be aware of it now that the camera's gotten shot out, and just needs to figure out where exactly this player is going to be playing from on the inside of the basement. Not a lot of time to do it here either. Only 30 seconds left, and Achieved is getting ready to make a move as he finally rotates back up the first floor here, closer to the site.
And continuing to see the effects of Sam Fisher and how he is changing up the meta. But as soon as we say that, Vertical ends up getting down. Foxay actually able to get this plant going through, but the pressure from TSM, they swing into dining, they take down Foxay, they have case control all for themselves. Merc also with the top hold as well, is just too strong from TSM. Chala with a double kill, could possibly be a triple as well. TSM just clean up that entire round. There was really nothing that OXG could do there. Some really, really solid stuff.
TSM doing some great work, specifically on their first floor holds, as they seem to have learned the lesson, and the lesson is don't fight Oxygen in the early round, avoid them at all costs. As we've been seeing them for the most part, just try to stay within close proximity to them. They want to hold angles against the pushes from OXG, because the problem is the opposite's usually been happening. Top-down pressure's been working its way in, and that's been forcing defenders out of their starting positions into the open, where Laxing, as we saw one pick from him in that last round, or another player from OXG is able to get them while they're in the open, trying to transition to whatever their fallback positions are. And that was costing them quite a bit in the early game, but it seems like they've rounded that back pretty well when it comes to these first floor sites anyway. And the good news is they're going back to another one. It's a different one than the one we just played, obviously, as they're going to be going to Bar instead. But the last time they played this, they did close it out. So TSM looking to repeat that for a third overall in the they jump on the attack.
And I love that you were talking about a lot of these picks and influences that Oxygen be able to find early on, and TSM trying to back that off a bit, because we've been seeing Vertical and Laxing work this map so very well, getting a lot of these lead-off picks simply through whether it be information or just intuition, just happens to be whichever engagement you're really looking at. But both of these two finding some of that early round influence that Oxygen have been able to translate rounds through, and as you said, TSM backing off simply because of that. So we'll have to see how Oxygen try and change up things now, but still looking to Laxing to be dominant inside of this last round here on offense. Oxygen usually a pretty potent squad when it comes down to those hard executes and making things really, really difficult on those site players. So they're able to get back to it. We could have a round win here for them, but as we've seen from TSM so far, they've actually been pretty consistent inside of that site play, all except for truly that first round where Oxygen just ran away with things. But ever since then, it's really been back and forth. Now, with 30 seconds off the board, taking a look on over to Oxygen, we will still have Kino on the IQ, Vert staying on the sledge, and Laxing still rocking that Sam Fisher.
Chief did get the ping onto a drone a second ago. He's trying to kind of rotate into it now, but it's long gone, so not going to be able to find much through that drone hole. Merc, obviously, you can see just outside to the right, he does have a Valcam to play off of, so shouldn't have too much of an issue walling that off. As also, he's got to rotate positions anyway. Here's not that drone, I think, was trying to go for it, but again, still working on the reinforcement job, it seems, since they can tell from the early round here, not a lot of pressure immediately working its way in on Trophy side, but that could start to change. As we know, Oxygen have learned here to keep themselves back and try to wait out the aggression from TSM. TSM doesn't want to give it to Oxygen at this point either. They've also learned how to play this out properly, so that leaves Oxygen in control of the situation, and they'll have to thrive upon it here, more than likely by gathering the intel, forcing out the members of TSM that are still causing problems upstairs here.
Yeah, this round for TSM is, or excuse me, Oxygen is taking everything that they've learned from these previous offenses on games and applying it now. And for TSM, obviously, it's moving the goalposts, trying to get some operators in different areas, play this out slightly differently than they did before, just to throw that curveball effect at Oxygen and make them second guess what they're doing. So far, it's worked out as, once again, down to the minute and 10 mark. And look at that, Bolo's alive, still playing the balcony, folks. They've gotten rid of his Goyo shield, but he continues to lock things up, make sure this wall cannot be penetrated or have anything blown through it, or they're going to be able to get some line of sight on him. But finally, the push comes through for Kino, and he'll bag too, but not before the Nitro Cell ends up taking him out from down low.
So 4v3 is what this devolves down to, and more than likely we're going to switch to a very passive TSM after those results flowed in, since they don't have the capability to take a risk on a gunfight anymore without potentially disadvantaging their team even further than they already are here. Plays to the site setup, and to be fair to TSM, this has already worked at least one time, but the problem is one player is potentially about to lose their position. Achieve sitting on the other side of this, not going to be able to see any mitigation work its way in to counter that, so Achieve simply just has to try and play around the hole in the wall now. That's taken away his cover.
Well, the good news is no frag grenades right now for Oxygen, but pretty bad news. Lots of OXG members now flooding into games. Oh, he's going to have to get it done with the Vector. He downs one. He secures it as well. Achieve dipping back and forth, but he needs support from his friends. Somebody needs to show up, but does he actually need it? He's able to get two achieved. That's a triple kill for him before he gets taken down, but now Laxing has something to say about it, and it's the spray and pray. It'll get it done. TSM down. Oxygen 4-2 on their offensive half.
Laxing, man, having himself a absolute heater of a game today when it comes to entries as well as these late round kills. He's been absolutely fantastic. Supported, of course, by the great intel coming in from his teammates. Can't tell you exactly who's working on that job, obviously, but either way, whoever is on point supporting Laxing is doing a fantastic job. This man is getting set up for frags, and he is usually getting them inside of these rounds here. So 4-2, well-deserved half for them. Only 3 rounds needed on the defense now to close out this map.
All right, well, switching sides now. Oxygen on over to defense, so they'll have to suffer the wrath of whatever TSM has to offer here. So let's jump over and see exactly what this lineup is looking like. Now, right off the rip, Geo on Thermite, something that we didn't see too much of inside of their last instance, used a lot of Ace, if I remember correctly. On top of that, we actually had Merc on the Ashe, which Bolo is now playing before he was playing the Yana. Chala still rocking that Zero. Achieve's going to have the Sledge, and we're just not going to have a Yana in play. Before, when we saw them bring in the Jackal, I believe it was Merc that ended up actually grabbing it, and they switched Bolo onto something else, or either or, but he was one of the ones that they had in their initial lineup, and you can't exactly blame them for starting off with the Jackal lineup this time around as opposed to going against Mirage, because OXG tend to get in your face. They want to be aggressive, and Jackal is the best operator when it comes down to dealing with those kinds of roam games, because you have instant influence over the entire map once you get into the building. If you are able to see where anyone walked inside a prep phase, excuse me, then you're more than likely going to be able to shut down the roam game or kill that person simply because of that.
Seems that a community poll question ended up being pretty relevant to this game because right now it's turning into the Chala versus Laxing show.
It's actually a 1v1 and all their friends are just hyping each other, hyping them up, you know what I mean? Oh, you got this, man, come on.
Credit, of course, to TSM. Bolo, Achieved, and some of the others have been picking up the pace from time to time, but definitely a large amount of the focus has been between those two players when talking about either team inside of this game. And not only that, but they both have the same amount of frags right now, so they're literally racing each other on the stats here, as we ended up picking up great two teams, or great two players, I should say, for our community poll question today. Either way, we're going to get droned out here on the inside of the mezzanine, just outside of the library, but not enough pressure to force him out due to the reinforced wall he has to hide behind. So someone else going to have to put in the effort to take him down through either sneakier means or by direct contestation if they want to jump to the inside of that room.
Won't work with an identification.
See a rappel angle trying to isolate him out too here, it looks like.
Yeah, TSM.
On the other side of the building.
Yeah, TSM's trying to take this one pretty slow. Yeah, Chala's actually going to be playing Ego on the other side for that double window, just in case somebody tries to rush back towards the site. But the clear, way too strong for TSM. You guys could see how they handled that. 2 people on Laundry, the rappel angle as well, then force somebody up Fireplace, Hall, Stairs. So well done for them, but that's exactly what we expect from a team of this caliber. continuing on down the line. They're forcing back these OXG members. Now, Fox8, truly the most forward member, all except for possibly Laxing, who could get an engagement of his own down low. But as soon as I say that, Chalo rips his head off as they continue to go back and forth here on Chalet.
Such a strong offensive matrix set up here by TSM. So many members of Oxygen trying to get anything done. And we see that again as Foxay tries to jump into this fight this time. He's taken down by Achieve finally on the staircase. Kino's the only one left here in a 1v5. And while we've seen Merc get down, that's of very little consequence at this point, considering that even if he goes down completely, which hasn't happened, he's already back up. Would have been in a 1v4 still from that point forward. So Kino able to hold things back just slightly. That's a good pump from the Shoddy, but now the pressure's going to come in. What a follow-up from Kino, though. Rips the head off of Geo, and now he's going to look for more. Second attempt to try and take the head off of a player, but not going to make the impact needed right there. Has to try and go for it once again. The impact's in. That'll deal with his shield. He'll be put into an awkward spot now, but he's going to thrive upon that. Pushes forward. Oh, no. Unfortunately, the model of his scope getting the better of him there as he can't see the peak from Bolo. And as such, he'll take him down.
Bolo had the read. That's the danger of Bolo again, folks. We talked about it earlier with how this guy's peaks can just get him so much info. And there it is once again. Just fantastic movement, able to read that situation perfectly, and TSM claimed the round. But we kind of knew that probably about the halfway mark into that round that was more than likely going TSM's way. As you said, the offensive matrix there for them was just so expansive. It was massive.
If you're OXG, you cannot peek them in that situation. You're going to get shot by someone. And the problem is, you're on defense now. You obviously don't have drones anymore unless you're picking them up from Mozzie's POV. But either way, you don't have an easy way to get info on where exactly your attackers are. So if TSM are playing this very quiet, very slow, very creeping offense in order to work their way in, it's very tough for OXG to be able to get any sort of adequate pressure on a TSM without potentially getting shut down by like 2 to 3 different players.
All right, well, it looks like we got a rehost confirmed here, folks. So Oxygen not able to 6 pick, so we're just going to reset the lobby really quickly. So a couple of things to talk about, I guess. Let's break down that first half and kind of get into what we saw inside of that previous round. So that first half obviously was Oxygen on offense and TSM on defense. We saw a very dominant Oxygen on the offensive side of the coin. I don't think it was as clean, all except for that first round that we saw from them, as TSM's prior offensive round that we just saw, but still a lot of really, really solid stuff from them. And it seems like the team play is really coming to fruition with this OXG team. Not that they didn't have that before with the previous squad, it's just that it seems like they're more lethal across the board this time around.
A lot of that same type of aggression coming out from both these teams too, as we can see both of them slowly trying to pinch out the more forward roamed players on the defense and then work their way into the site from there. And that strategy worked pretty well initially, but the problem is that when they were trying to go for Oxygen, when they were trying to go up against those first floor holds, TSM did not take the bait, was not jumping into any of those engagements, and ultimately OXG was having a hard time locking some of the anchors on site down, leading to a lot more mid-round exchanges that ultimately would go TSM's way and giving them, of course, those couple of points on the board before they eventually jumped on the attack. Now, things are looking great for the attack, but that's only the first round. The same can be said for OXG's defense, so there's a whole world of possibilities still opened up between both of these teams in terms of what we could potentially see happen going on to the future rounds. For instance, Oxygen going to stay on the same site? Will they rotate down to one of the first floors of the basement? That we don't know as of yet, so we're going to have to wait and see.
Yeah, exactly. We saw how much Oxygen changed things for their offensive game plan when it came to that previous side against TSM. TSM able to sneak some rounds through, but Oxygen just ahead on pacing and really how they wanted to attempt to work Chalet. Now that they're on the defensive side, obviously they'll have to do it all over again. This is what we saw from Oxygen, or excuse me, TSM when they were on their defensive side as well. They lost 2 rounds straight, and they were able to finally combat Oxygen in some sense of the term. So we'll have to see if Oxygen can do the exact same thing and try and either close it out here or at a minimum guarantee overtime.
All right, guys, we got everybody back in the lobby, so it should only just be a matter of making sure both teams are ready to rock and roll here. As soon as we have that confirmation, nothing to keep us back from starting the match and reigniting the scoreline between these two teams here to see if we can get ourselves a winner in a couple of minutes time. TSM is ready. Is Oxygen ready?
Drum roll, please.
They're ready. All right.
They're ready, and we're getting back into the game, folks. We will reignite the passion of Rainbow Six and reignite the duel in between Chala and Laxing. We have to figure out which one of these guys is not only going to win the social media poll, which, by the way, it's going to be Chala because TSM, but besides that point, which one of them is actually going to win the game? I mean, if Laxing wins that poll, I will post like whatever anybody wants me to on Twitter. I will do it.
I don't know. I mean,
I'm not. Listen, that is not a slight towards Lax at all, man. Lax's social media presence is so solid, but you're talking about TSM.
Yeah, I know, but I can.
But
I mean, it's Laxing,
but TSM.
But
TSM
Laxing,
could
though.
like tweet like 3 numbers and get like 40 bajillion likes. Like,
But is at TSM like supporting this poll right now for Chala?
no, but but Chala's part of TSM. And do you know a TSM member that has bad interactions, John? Name one. I'll wait.
That's true enough.
Okay,
Fair enough.
that's what I thought.
All right.
That's what I thought. Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk about social media interactions.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got some great new Rainbow Six share skins in the game,
we do.
including some ones for TSM that you just saw right there, as well as the new regional division skins too. Be sure to go ahead in game, check those out. They're on the shop now. So if you're interested and you want to make your operators look cooler, that's the place to do it.
You owe me $10 for ad libs, by the way. I just want you to know that. So, yeah. But yeah, I would go get those skins.
So
actually,
talk to our boss about that.
I was gonna say, actually, save the $10. Go buy the TSM skin. That's what I was gonna tell you to do. Because if you guys don't know, they actually let TSM 3D model Mozzie's weapon this time around. So the Commando actually has true engraving on it. So like the dragon gloves that Sophia has in the previous TSM skin, imagine that on a gun engraved. It looks so good. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out in the esports shop in game. But we're back in, folks. No more skin talk. We're just talking about wins now. That's it. And who can possibly pull it out here? We're only one round in between these two. We're at round 8 right now. 3-4 with Oxygen in the lead. Their defense is not looking too hot just yet, but this could be the game changer here, as TSM are going to be bringing the exact same lineup that we saw in their previous round.
She's still with an advantage, obviously, here, but only a slight one at that, as now we're going to see Oxygen play into a basement hold. Going to be a Nitro Cell chucked out there by Laxing. Unsure if he was playing off of a player's position, as I couldn't see anyone from the POV that we had. It might have just been to set up an angle going up. You can see that other pre-placed Nitro Cell there as they try to take care of another member of TSM that's lurking above them right now, but no dice, no damage connecting onto this attacking squad. Just the lurk going on upstairs here between Yogg and Laxing as they try to isolate out any of the early map control that TSM is trying to get. Mainly over towards the trophy side and back over here by the big metal stairs too, just by bar.
Blue stairs, my friend. Blue stairs.
Yeah, blue stairs. I know there's two metal stairs in this map, so that's a bad call. But
Oh, you're all good, man. Yeah, don't worry. Especially with the rework now, there's some other like awkward areas that are staircases now that weren't staircases and like stuff like that. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Either way, it looks to be a snowmobile take here for TSM. They already got Merc on the main stairs, and this is exactly what you need. Pressure towards this back door in blue is going to be a very big deal. They also have to worry about that single panel that you can see Merc have a drone on right now. And that could also provide some other different issues. But you can see, as we saw earlier, this positioning of the Vault Cam for Oxygen bodes extremely well in the info department. It'll give a good read as to what is happening for these TSM members. Also some solid Argus cams that we saw around, but it's not going to have any influence as of right now because none of them are truly in sight from what we saw. Although Oxygen are going to be able to continue to stem the tide here and slow down TSM, this execute has to come at some point in time, and that's why we see the floor starting to get broken up by Achieved. They have to look for one of these initial picks to make their life a little bit easier on the entry.
God, so close to being contested by a member of TSM. He knows it now as the ping comes out from, I believe, Foxe. Laxing, though, finally igniting himself into this round. Him and Yogg have been so quiet upstairs for the entire 2.5 minutes we've played out so far. I mean, look at all this destruction that's going on in the meantime here. Fert being able to shut it down. The plant trying to go off, and it looks like it's going to be successful. Goes down onto the ground. Chala gets the first exchange in the favor of TSM. Merc finds the second. Now we're in the post plant, and this is not going to be an easy retake by any stretch of the imagination. Look at this plant position at the bottom corner of the staircase. Compare it to the post plants. Achieved, just ripping apart the members of Oxygen as they try to vie for any type of control on the site. Everything has fallen to Laxing, and even he can't get anything off for free. The Nitro Cell connects somehow onto that little fireplace there, so that is also going to fail. Merc takes him down, And what a round being won by TSM.
Oh, that's so rough there for Laxing. That Nitro so could have possibly have bagged 2 people. If you guys saw the zero sitting right inside of the bar, if it landed properly, that would have been such an insane moment for Laxing, as well as for Oxygen. But that's in the past, and obviously it's not what we had happen in the present. So looking towards the future now for Oxygen. Not really good defensive round so far from them. That round especially not going their way in any sense of the term. They were able to get some solid leadoff picks there, but TSM are able to translate that into a plant while all of that fragging is going on from OXG, and that was the biggest issue. They were capitalizing on the players upstairs and were able to find kills because of that, but they weren't necessarily aware of what was going on inside of their own backyard. And that's where the problem was actually, like, the biggest issue was, right? Because we have not only Merc inside planting, but we already have the crosses set up as well as the smokes down. They don't even actually know where the plant's going down. We see them try and swing out and check all of the default areas, all except for bottom main because it was smoked off for the connector closet. TSM, just great control over the map and a really solid post plant there because it was getting scary for just a moment.
All right, so we are locked once again into a tie game between both of these teams. 4-4 for both TSM and OXG here. We will go back to, I believe, a bar defense for Oxygen on this round as they try to pick up their own initial win here. Get themselves in the lead as they're just about to lose it. TSM with 2 successful attacking rounds. Oxygen yet to find a response, but they're going to look to see if they can get one on the inside of the bar and billiard site here for the opening carved out between those 2 sites. You're also going to see the extended play continue to remain a theme here, specifically inside of blue, where it looks like we have, this is Laxing, yes, sitting inside if you're looking to fend off any of the early map control that TSM will look to take in this department.
That might be one of my favorite things when it comes to casting Rainbow Six Siege is seeing Laxing on a roam, because you never know what is going to go on when this guy is able to do so. When the team's just like, Laxing, go do your thing, go run off somewhere, that's when Laxing shines. He can get so much done for this squad if given the opportunity, but obviously TSM have been running roughshod over that throughout these offenses so far, keeping him locked down, and he hasn't been able to find the same amount of presence as he wishes he could. And that's mostly been from the info game here for TSM. Not only the Argus cams being able to cover flank, but also Merc providing that Inox, able to track those defensive members, make it where they can't rotate as freely as they once wanted to. It's still the top clear here for TSM as they push towards Library. Obviously, Oxygen will be holding things down up top since this is a game's defense, and they'll be bringing the Frost along for the ride as well on Kino.
Merc getting alert for, and he's not alone, but he's going to get some fire back there. A little bit too high, on the response shot there as he tries to move in and force the defensive pressure outside of Library. Away from that, Yaga as well, still waiting for an opportunity to find his own impact. At the top of Blue Stair, he's gonna get it. 3 different players right around the corner from him, and he can hear the action broiling on the outside. One player transitions upstairs. Vertical has the cutoff also, and I'm not sure if TSM are fully aware of that. Should have some semblance of an idea, as this was a common position used by TSM themselves on the defense, but either way, Yogg will lose. His Goyo shield has to fall back to wait out the incendiary time and try to get aggressive again if he wants to. Fend off against that push from the window. No one from TSM actually having hopped into it just as of yet, but they're going too soon with only 40 seconds left. Oh, this nade. That could be a winner if it doesn't bank too far. And actually, Kino running almost into the path of it. Achieve dodging the frost mat as he works his way in here, too. There's the entry. That's going to force out any of the players that were still left roaming back upstairs here into a much more stable position. Oh, great aggression from Vertical. Works his way out. And not only does he drop a player, he drops the case, too, with just 20 seconds left for a response from TSM.
They still need to be able to get this case down, and that's why Oxygen are starting to ramp up the pace. Yaga keeping things consistent here on Blue Stairs. Laxing working the bottom of it, but now they know that there's some pressure inside of Bar. It's Chala has worked his way inside, but now a big frag here onto Achieve. Laxing takes out 2. He'll take out the last as well. That includes his teammate there if you want to count it for the 3K, but a double for all the kills that actually mattered. Fantastic stuff there for Oxygen as they seal out games. As this site starting to come together for a lot of these squads.
Yeah, the team kill, not really anything Laxing could have done about that. His teammate just kind of accidentally swings his head into Laxing's spray. So not much he could have really done to avoid that. But either way, Laxing.
I just love it because that's usually the excuse as well. It's like, hey man, you just shouldn't have been standing in front of me. Like, what are you doing?
No, I mean like that dude literally like Q leaned into his spray. So not Laxing's fault there, and of a little consequence anyway, since OXG still are able to close out the round in their favor there, keeping control of the lead, picking up their first defensive win. Interestingly enough, it's on the same exact site that TSM also won. So we seem to have a winner on the initial site pick department, as both teams are finding success on bar here initially.
I'm telling you that is the thing that's more than likely going to have to get ran through a lot. It is taking control of that top floor, because it seems like both of these teams are having some difficulty getting rid of that library balcony player and the library balcony player. Excuse me, I always miss an R in that. That's that Midwestern in me, man. So apologies about that. But either way, still that top area inside of the library balcony seems to really be the hindrance for both of these squads, trying to get some pressure in there, especially on library, where we saw that frag grenade come in at the last second for TSM, but it's not enough, especially on the timer. Like, we didn't see them draw that conclusion until like 40 seconds remaining on the clock, and at that point it's too little too late, and Oxygen are able to get away with the round because of that. So a lot of these teams just not finding the proper marks on those games offenses. Oxygen actually being the only ones, I believe, right now that have been able to win out those rounds. Yes, actually, they are actually able to win out 2 of those on their offense. So pretty solid stuff for them.
OXG certainly coming prepared to the matchup on Chalet today, and looking to make an impact by finding a win against the only other team that's not only been willing to pick this map, but also the only other team that so far has a win here. It's TSM, or rather, it is TSM. Oxygen, in the meanwhile, they continue to play out their passive openers here, just set up in those solid positions. No real need to drift from them, except in a couple cases we're seeing now with Yogg. He's playing around Solarium, leading into the bedroom, and got a teammate to support there with Laxing as well, checking out the cams. So Yogg's going to fall back down to Trophy, and I believe play around the kitchen area. And Laxing will take up the aggressive mantle upstairs here by Solarium in the bedroom.
Multiple levels here for Oxygen, as we're used to seeing on these roam games here. Just trying to slow down TSM once again and possibly find a frag. We saw Laxing get one the last time in a roam that was quite similar, when he came across from Trophy Room, was able to pick up one. And as of right now, TSM are trying to find this site info, and they found quite a bit of it as well, especially with Merc being on IQ. They'll know where all of these electronics are, and they'll be able to get rid of almost every single one of them through pretty easy means. So for TSM, this is starting to look more like a plant and simply see if Oxygen can retake, rather than trying to bully their way deep into sight. Minute and 10 seconds remain now, is not too much action has happened on either side.
Yeah, just a lot of hot shots being taken between both teams right now as everybody tries to go for these pre-aimed angles, and no one's coming up with anything to actually net them a kill so far. But there we go. That's going to change finally, as Merc is able to line up the first one for the squad. All the IQ nonetheless with the G8. He's going to be able to take out Vertical first here, opening up a pathway down the main staircase into the site. But is this truly the way they want to enter, though? That's the question. And is the combined pressure of the garage and the stairwell enough for them to get in?
Well, Laxing abandoning the roam to see if all of the players have made their way back, but I believe they have, and TSM already have it set up. But no, Foxay makes his way across the closet, takes down the planter. They didn't have the smokes like they did once before, but TSM off the top rope. They're taking out 3. They're taking out 4. It wasn't supposed to go like that, but TSM run through round 10 off of a beautiful setup for Basement.
Very, very well done there by TSM to suddenly just spin that round right back on its heels and keep us that much closer on the inside of this matchup here. 5-5. We are locked once again in a dead heat between these two teams. Neither one can seem to get ahead of the other, as they constantly are bouncing right back. OXG will have to shift the site yet again, not feeling the basement play. They're back upstairs into a master bedroom and office defense here.
Oxygen so far have only won 1 defensive round, obviously needing 1 more to try and confirm overtime. Are going to have the 6th pick come in here Laxing shifting off of what I believe was Echo on over to Valkyrie. And we've seen TSM already pick up the IQ, had it in the previous round as well. And what a great pickup it was, because it's going to limit a lot of what these black eye cams can do. And they have so much influence as well when they're allowed to exist. We saw an earlier cam inside our Fireplace Hall for Oxygen that was getting a really good read on TSM and all of the angles that they were playing inside of that main hall. So we'll see what Oxygen wants to try and do now that they know that Merc is playing that IQ. But from the sounds of it, it seems like they're still sticking to some slightly more risky cams.
Oxygen with the spread set once again, and the heavy focus on the extended defense leaning over towards libraries. You'll see that extra reinforced wall go down to support the hold from the player out in the actual hallway. Once again, I believe in this situation is going to be vertical as it was back on the initial round of this half too. He will have support from the blue stairs position also, more than likely coming in from either Yogg or Foxay, considering the operator choices, but we'll get all that info in good time here, as still plenty of initial action coming up as TSM pop open all the windows, and we'll see if Oxygen's going to be able to play it aggressively. Yes, they will. A Nitro Cell sings its way outside, I believe, and knocks out Merc, deleting the IQ before she can make an impact.
That's going to be sad days here for TSM, obviously taking down Merc, and going to be a lot harder to find these black eye cams now. For Oxygen, though, with that lead-off pick, they'll more than likely be able to slow things down, but with OXG, never tends to really go that way, obviously. Always on the smart side of the coin, but can definitely still be quite aggressive. They're all going to maintain their current positioning. Chala could possibly have an engagement here with Foxay inside of Dining, as Fox will get droned out. He has quite a few TSM members. In fact, I believe almost all of them. Yes, 2 members here over inside of Trophy. He's been droned out now, so he's starting to try and push forward, but he's more than likely going to get in a duel here with Bolo. He doesn't begin backing off, but they don't really have a good read on this anymore. Granted that Foxay was actually able to get rid of that drone. No Argus cams here from Chala either, so this situation right now for TSM just so difficult given the situation of Chala and Merc being taken out so early on here.
Yogg and Vert playing to the direct outside of the site here, looking to fend off the last remnants of TSM, and already making some good effort in that department. Bolo losing half of his HP here, down to 50, trying to still play from his current position just outside the solarium there, swinging around. We'll see if he's going to be able to actually make anything happen. Other members of TSM trying to play. You can see at least one on the rappel by the window there. Flash actually does force Kino out of position, but not into any sort of position where Achieved or another member of TSM are going to be able to capitalize upon that. Same time, hard breach taken care of here. It actually locks Kino and one more member. I believe it's going to be Laxing in this position into a bit of an awkward spot. But the problem for TSM is that Oxygen can just fall right back. They still have full control of the outside hallway. They just rotate quickly out of that room, and they're just as fine as they were a few seconds ago. They're going to lose the bedroom now and potentially open up a plant opportunity, but in a 5v3, that is not the end of the world in any stretch of the imagination. Oh, Achieved! He'd been preparing for that run out for the last minute or so, and still is unable to stop it. That combined with the triple kill that we get from Laxing there makes for another swift retake in Oxygen's favor and a 6th round going on the board.
Well, I mean, good on TSM for getting the plant down, but that's really all they could do. After that, Oxygen just run away with things. What an engagement from Foxay running out inside of Trench and able to find the repelled player with the Overwatch Overmaster, as well as that deep line of sight all the way into the piano area as well. And that's going to be a timeout for TSM. You can't exactly blame them after Oxygen reach match points. Those early engagements from OXG, just, man, it's just so difficult for TSM to try and work around that. When you're walking into a round where you still have practically 2 minutes remaining and you're down 2 members, the fact that they even got a plant off actually surprises me. But given the fact that Oxygen just kind of backed off and we're like, okay, we'll play for retake. We'll kind of play to see what they do. We don't want to give it away just yet. Honestly, I think that that's exactly how Oxygen wanted that round to go. So fantastic from them. And a possibility or a chance here to lock it out inside of regulation.
Yeah, the news for TSM continues to get worse and really leads us into the reason why they called this pause. We're going back to Barn Gaming again. This is already where Oxygen's been able to close out on one of the 2 rounds they picked up so far in this half, and they're about to go back to it to try and claim their 3rd one. TSM has to be nervous about the approach here. They need to make impact early on, not allow OXG to waste the time down. More importantly, waste the time that TSM need to take map control away in order to give them the time they need to open up the soft angles to try and properly take control of that site. This is going to be a tough one for TSM, but they have to win it here. Otherwise, OT is out of the cards. They're going to get 0 points for today, and Oxygen are going to take 1st place in the league.
Yeah, that's going to be a really big deal as well, because that's going to be 2 days in a row here for TSM not being able to get past their opponents. We'll have to see if it gets down to overtime once again like it did up against the Sonics on Oregon, but this is this last round here to see if anything changes, and a big change coming in is Achieve will bring Ying along for the ride.
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many bombs as they can.
All right, so potentially the final round of the matchup. It is the final round of regulation here, the last chance for TSM to make their impact. A lot of the same coming out so far. We are going to get the Frost Mat in play once again here for our defenders. One of them going right down there at the top left of your screen by that double window. We're going to see the rotate position open up in between the 2 sites as well. Once again, something else that we've seen used quite often already in the previous rounds. But the big shakeup on the attack is going to be the fact that we've seen a Ying get brought in for Achieved. Very curious to see how this will work, especially when it comes to the late round execute, as we've already seen her work great for hard to push positions such as the basement on Oregon.
Absolutely. So we'll have to see if that could have some effect here inside of our possible last round. As we said before, it's going to be the game's defense once again here for Oxygen, and they're bringing a very similar lineup, all except for Yaga, who's now on dock, an operator that we don't get to see that often anymore, but he's still as good as he ever was with those stim charges, as well as at 1.5 now being on the MP5. So we'll see if he can get any of these impactful frags early on here that they're more than likely looking with or looking for inside of these engagements. But oh no, the Frost coming through again. Apparently TSM not thinking that this could possibly happen to them as well. He's going to get down. Kino on the cross gets one as well. And oh no, this is looking like an Oxygen round all over the place as TSM members drop like flies. It's down to Bolo with less than 25 HP and Merc to try and win it out in a 2 versus 4.
I give credit to TSM for the creativity, but much more credit to OXG for the immediate counter and the Frost Mats being set up to counter this sort of a rush play from TSM. And they now have to try and find some way to work themselves back into this round from a 2v4. And let's be clear here, they have no positioning to work off of. Bolo's outside. Where's Merc right now? Let's take a look at him real quick and see what kind of positioning he has. He's at least inside the building, but not for very long. As you can see, right next to one of the outside windows here, they have nothing to play for, and they don't even have case control.
Yeah, and that's the biggest issue, is that we saw what Oxygen did in this position the last time where they had a man advantage lead, and that was be patient. And that's something that Oxygen has gotten better and better at with time, where when they get these big man advantage leads, they go back to just playing the cross angles, and makes it super difficult for any of these offenders to try and get some foothold on the round again, because they definitely need these frags to try and come through. Bolo's able to find one on the main door. That's a big pickup here, especially still early on into the later half of the round here. A minute remains, so TSM definitely still have a chance, although still quite bleak.
You got to get nervous for Oxygen in this situation when you consider how many close calls like this have generally not gone their way at past big events, but hopefully we won't have that unfortunate turn of events happen yet again.
There's no yokai drones, so that's good.
yeah, that's... If anybody remembers SI, you know what I'm talking about. But either way, TSM working this so slowly. It's the right way to play it, considering their gamble on the aggressive strategy did not pay out at all due to the immediate counter from the Frost Mats, as well as a well-timed Nitro Cell to drop the case. Laxing in a swing position here. If he gets someone to get aggressive upon him, there it is. Doesn't get the kill. Remember, he's only got a sliver of HP left. He can't really fight in the open against Merc right now. He's got to try to play this out passively. There's Yogg coming in, though, to shut down one of the 2 remaining TSM players. And with only 10 seconds left, Merc nearly running himself into another Frost Mat. But Foxe finally does show up for the closer, as indeed we will have a regulation closeout for OXG inside of this matchup. 7-5 is going to be the final score. That's 3 points going over to OXG, no points for TSM, and as well, at least for the time being, OXG taking the mantle at first place in the league.
You just took what I was gonna say. Yeah, no, but yeah.
Think of something else.
Oxygen taken first as of right now. We still have to see what the songs can do a little bit later on. But what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just saying, think of something else. But yeah, no, the Sonics, obviously, there's like a little bit of an asterisk on that first place because the Sonics are not playing today, so they've not had a proper chance to defend that as of yet. So on their next play day, they'll more than likely have the opportunity to retake that position from the OXG roster, who has just claimed it from the Sonics.
Yeah, just remember, guys, since we do have an odd number of teams inside of the NAL, we are going to have those bye weeks for some people, and that just so happens to be the Sonics today. So we'll have to see what happens inside of their next series. But as for this one, a very strong showing by Oxygen, and they definitely did their homework. We saw a lot of that throughout this game as to what TSM had been doing prior, because there was really no change-ups in the game plan for TSM here on Chalet.
Yeah, TSM obviously a very unfortunate final round for them. To be fair to them, I respect the audacity of the play. It's just sad that we saw it fall apart due to the good utility choices from OXG pretty much immediately countering out that style. Either way, though, guys, that's going to close it out for the day for myself and Stokes. Stick around, though. We've got 2 more games coming up right after this break.